Good day, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Marinated Reviews with Meg. What is a marinated review exactly? Well, what I like to do is I take my time with the game. I don't try to squeeze it in 3 or 4 days and then have the review out by release day. What I like to do is take a few weeks, really spend some time with the game, go through it once, go through it twice, and then I sit back. And then I marinate on it. And then I think about it. And then what I do is I give my initial score of when I originally played it. And then after I've taken some time to think about it, I give my final review. So today we are going to be reviewing Call of Duty Black Ops 7. Let's get into it. Now, before I get into the actual review, we have to talk about the controversy around this game. This game has been mired in controversy since it came out, on top of the fact that the sales have dropped, engagement has dropped, the absolutely horrendous campaign, the lazy slapped together multiplayer. It has been nothing short of a disaster for Activision, and of course, the AI slop that was obviously used in this game, which of course Activision has vehemently denied, but has been proven otherwise. But let's get into the campaign first and talk about that. The campaign is the worst campaign I have ever played in a Call of Duty, and I have been playing Call of Duty since the very first one, decades ago. Now, the design choices on top of the narrative choices are even worse. The design choices leaving you to play with either 1 to 4 players in a squad, and you be able to finish the campaign as such. However, they did not adjust difficulty depending on who is playing or how many people are playing this game. So for example, if you're trying to play this game with 1 player, just you yourself, as you normally would in a Call of Duty campaign, it is almost impossible to do so because they did not scale the difficulty. They designed it for 4 players. I was able to actually squeak by 2 levels by myself. Other than that, it is almost impossible to do so. I was able to get through most of the game with 3 players, and of course, I wasn't even able to finish the game unless I actually had 4 players. This is a very poor design choice, as a lot of people like to play solo. They don't like to play with strangers. They don't like to play in squads, and the option to do so has basically been nullified. On top of that, the enemies are bullet sponges. This is like the highest level of the Division 2, where they just stand there and just take clip after clip after clip after clip of bullets to the head, and they just stand there. I got to the point where I was 3/4 through the campaign and was just exhausted from it, just sitting there half awake with my finger on the right trigger, just unloading bullets on enemies, even though they also have the option to upgrade your weapons and, of course, get better grades of your weapons, very similar to Fortnite or very similar to zombie mode, for example. You can get the blue, you can get the green, you can get the purple, you can get the legendary weapons. It still has almost no effect on these enemies, which makes it an absolute bore to play. And the problem is, on top of that, especially in the later levels, the enemies just keep coming and coming and coming, to the point where, as I was live streaming the game for my audience, even the audience was saying, is this ever going to end? Just mirroring exactly my thoughts as I was playing the game. Even more egregious than the technical ones, the story went absolutely nowhere. It just kept going in circles. It was poorly acted, poorly executed, poorly told, and this is by no means an accusation, but it certainly feels as if this story was put together by AI as well. I understand that Black Ops has always had a history of the mind trip, hallucinatory sections of the game where you're going into the mind of Mason and other characters and the hallucinations and such. I understand all that. And that would have been fine if you'd done that for a level or 2. The problem in this game specifically is that it goes on for about 90% of the game. You're fighting giant plants. You're fighting giant men. You're fighting South American dictators throwing giant machetes at you. It is utterly ridiculous and never seems to end. You have zombies in there. Then you have zombies fighting for you. It is silly beyond words, to the point where it's absolutely laughable. There was even a level where I was running down a highway dodging cars like Frogger. If I wanted to play Frogger, I would go back to the 1982 arcade cabinet and play Frogger. I don't want to be playing that in Call of Duty, but On top of that, you can see that a lot of these areas in the campaign were reused areas from Modern Warfare 3. There is a section where you're actually in a snow village, which was utilized in Modern Warfare 3. The end game, Avalon, where you're actually flying in with your wingsuits, very much like the actual online mode, Warzone. And then on top of that, that is basically the same idea, almost same map as the Modern Warfare 3 Open Zombies mode. You could see that this is all just patched together with popsicle sticks and glue, and no real effort was put in. And I'm not really 100% sure whether it's the development team, the management team, the ownership, or the fact that they're forced to slap one of these games out every 11 to 12 months. So in conclusion for the campaign, I unfortunately have to give this campaign nothing more than a 3 out of 10, and that's even being generous, because there were some moments in there where I actually had some fun with my squad because I was playing with my friends, and I really enjoyed some sections of the game. However, the overall feeling of this campaign is that it was uninspiring, not well presented, and certainly put together in a very hastily fashion, where I found it to be unenjoyable and absolute bloat. So 3 out of 10 for the campaign. Now, let's get into the multiplayer side of things. The multiplayer, once again, it's basically a lot of reused maps. Now, it's fun to go back to those reused maps, like, for example, Raid, or, for example, the Hijack one on the yacht. Those are a lot of fun, and it brings back certainly some great memories of playing past Call of Duty Black Ops games. However, when you're paying full price for these games, you do not want to keep going back to the same maps over and over and over again. It's basically turned into Madden, where you get the same game every year with one slight tweak for full price. And I don't understand, and I can't understand how this will continue to flourish moving forward. However, considering numbers the way they are, I think that people have basically had enough. Now, the interesting thing about the multiplayer is that throughout the campaign and throughout the zombies and the multiplayer, your characters and guns level up. So that is very interesting, and that does help with the multiplayer. Now, the multiplayer graphics are terrible. They're not very good. You could tell that this is a last-gen effort that have been put forward. As you can see, in comparison, you play something like Battlefield 6 and play that multiplayer with the destructible environments, absolutely drop-dead gorgeous graphics, great sound design, and of course, the military design of the game. Where, for example, when you're playing Battlefield and you have your soldiers and you have the enemy soldiers, and you can actually come up with a game plan as to how to move forward, a strategy, and saying, okay, we're going to go here, we're going to flank there, we're going to do this. But in Call of Duty, they're spawning from every which way direction. It is absolute nonsense. People are spawning behind you, in front of you, beside you, to the left, to the right, to the up, to the down. It is just basic chaos. Now, it is still a lot of fun to play. The actual shooting mechanics, the hit detection, the time to kill are all still very excellent. However, on top of that, you're basically playing an ADHD on cocaine version of Fortnite, while everybody's just jumping around like beans and just shooting in all directions. It is complete and utter nonsense, not military strategy at all. I understand it's not supposed to be a strategic game, but it's not also supposed to be this arcadey. However, it's still a lot of fun, and I'm still enjoying leveling up my weapons and shooting people and so forth, and jumping and sliding and jumping off walls is still a lot of fun, and I'm having fun with it. And of course, it's very addictive at the end of the day to have that game cycle, and of course, that game loop going over and over and over again. I am really enjoying that. So I have to say, I'm going to cut this one short on the multiplayer side of things because there's not really much to tell, and it's very uninspiring in a lot of ways, but still fun. I have to give the multiplayer a 7 out of 10. Now let's get into the best part of Black Ops 7, which is, of course, the Zombies mode. It is by far the most consistent and the best quality section of this game. They do have the Dead Ops Arcade 4, which is available as well. That is the top-down twin-stick isometric shooter. It's a lot of fun to play. It's the kind of thing that you can listen to a podcast in the background and just sit there and have some fun while you're trying to go through the 80 levels to get to the final boss, if you're going to either complete it and get the trophy or achievement for doing so. Anyways, it's a great time and not much else to say there. As for the traditional zombie mode, it is well presented, great location, wonderful voiceover work, great music, and of course, the actual technical side of it, the shooting mechanics, the movement, the hit detection, once again, are all on point. And of course, there are different versions of that. There's the survival mode, which of course I just got the trophy for. I'm playing this on the PS5 Pro currently, where you have to survive 30 levels by yourself in just the farm area. And I had a blast doing so. Of course, there's also the Easter egg section, which you can either play solo or you can play in a squad. And that is also excellent, where you can get into your old pickup truck, old Tessie, and of course, you can go from area to area, which of course adds variety. And on top of that, be able to do all the objectives and move on to the next area in order to complete the Easter egg. I found this to be the most engaging and best part of this entire game. I have to give the zombies mode an 8.5 out of 10. Now that you've heard my thoughts and opinions about this game, time to give my final score. My initial score was a 7 out of 10. However, after marinating on this game for a few weeks, going back to it frequently and playing it more and more and more, I have to give my final aggregate marinated review score of a 5.4 out of 10. I do not recommend purchasing this game at full price. If you already have Game Pass and you're subscribed until Kingdom Come, then fine. Go ahead and play the game. I actually wouldn't even recommend getting Game Pass for, at least in Canada, almost $40 a month, which is about half the price of the game. I wouldn't even recommend doing that. I also wouldn't even bother recommending waiting for a deep sale, because there's no point. The next Call of Duty is going to be coming out in the next 10 months. Yes, 10 months. You heard that correct, because there is no way that they are releasing Call of Duty in November of 2026 with Grand Theft Auto 6 breathing down its neck. Yes, I understand. It's not the same genre, but you know that everybody is going to be playing Grand Theft Auto 6 over Call of Duty if they came out in the same month. So by those reasonings, I would have to imagine that Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4 will be coming out between September and October of next year. By the time that this game, Black Ops 7, goes on a deep sale, then the next one is already around the corner. So I would just wait for the next Call of Duty and hope that it reviews better. Anyways, I hope this was informative, and I hope that this was a warning shot for Activision with the commercial and critical success of Battlefield 6, that they need to step it up and maybe not slap together these games every single year. Maybe take a little time and produce a better quality product. Anyways, everyone have yourself a wonderful day. Stay magnificent, and we'll see you all on the next Marinated Reviews with Mag.